I think it's so helpful to do the mentoring and to help younger folks that are eager and interested to know that there's many different ways they can be involved in manufacturing and be incredibly successful at it.
A quick interruption to remind you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better. Hey, it's Ari Santiago, President, CEO of IT Direct. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Made in America podcast. Today, I'm with Nancy Traver from Traver IDC. Nancy's got a really interesting story about her journey into manufacturing and then back again. Nancy, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, listen, Nancy, it's the Made in America podcast. So we always start off with the same two questions. What do you make and why do you make it?
Okay, here we go. We actually remanufacture motors. We remanufacture motors, pumps, and servo motors for the industrial marketplace. We also manufacture control panels and industrial automation systems for both the manufacturing industry and also for water, wastewater customers. And we also work with customers with energy control automation projects that help to reduce their energy consumption by up to 20 to 50%. And we do that with the utility companies.
Wow, that's a pretty big deal. Energy is probably one of the top,
Absolutely.
3-4 line items in any manufacturer's expenses. So a reduction of 20 to 50% sounds pretty good.
Exactly.
So let's talk, before we get into the what in detail, which I do like to talk about, I'm always fascinated by the why. So let's start with the very beginning. Why does Traver IDC exist? How did it get started? Tell us about that.
Traver IDC started by my grandfather, Al Traver Sr., and he worked at Scoville Manufacturing back in the 1920s when Scoville was part of what was the brass center of the world at that time, and learned the trade and eventually went out on his own, and in 1938 started the business as Traver Electric Motor Company. He had 4 sons, and to some extent all 4 were involved in the business at different times, and it's grown from there. But for sure, we're passionate about manufacturing. With that background and everything to us, we want to be really key in helping to re-energize manufacturing and be a key player in that arena.
That's awesome. I mean, such a familiar story in Connecticut. You know, one of the family members worked at a large manufacturer somewhere, New Britain, Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, and goes out and kind of does that entrepreneur thing, gets their thing started. But not so many have gone 3rd generation, and if I'm not mistaken, the 4th generation already in the business. How has that worked out? Like, how much do you know about the transition from your grandfather to what ultimately was your father, and now your brothers, running the show, and you're involved, and your nephew's involved, and talk about that a little bit.
We have a great family, and we also, present great family values for everybody that works at the company. And my Uncle Al, who was the oldest, and Al Jr., and he came in the business, I think it would be in the 40s, and eventually took over the company. And then my dad, who was the youngest of the 4, went into partnership with Al, and then he took the business over from my uncle and ran it for many, many years. And my brother Jack started when he got out of school with the IDC part of the name, which is Industrial Drives and Controls, when automation started to really come out, where you're having electronic brakes and variable speed controls for equipment. So he started with that end of the business. It's pretty much merged and branded as Traver IDC, and my journey's been with it in the beginning of IDC and then back now. But I will say we're super excited to have fourth generation. Brandon Traver's a great guy, and he, of course, he's my nephew, right? So, and he's a mechanical engineer, and my brother and my father are both electrical engineers. So we really blend electrical and mechanical, and that's really our strength. So super to have him involved. And my niece Jillian has been with the company off and on. She's in London right now, but she also from afar has a little strategic hand in the business and helps out as well.
Maybe we'll the tractor beam of the family business will bring her home.
You will have some very happy family members if that happens.
How do you guys? How have you managed? It's not even just a family business, and a lot of people think of the traditional sense, which is sort of, one generation passes down to the next, and there's not a whole lot of intermingling. But you guys really have multiple generations in the business at the same time, even not immediate family members. So there's aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, daughters, sons. I mean, it's a pretty wide thing, and that's not something we've had the privilege of talking about a lot on the podcast.
Interesting.
How do you guys make it work? What's Thanksgiving like? What's Christmas if you celebrate Christmas like? What is that all like? How do you guys make it all work?
It works great, and I think we're just fortunate. I think that we respect everybody, and everybody has a little bit of business stress, perhaps, but when it comes to family, it's all cool. And my dad has been coming into the business for over 60 years. So I don't know. I'd like to attribute some of it to the values that he passed on to us, and
do you feel like there's a lot of commingling? I don't know if that's the right word, but a lot of maybe similarities between the family values that you learned at home and the values that are in the business? Are those kind of the same type of approach?
Yes, I would say that it is. I mean, we consider it a Traver family. We've got currently shy of 50 employees right now, and we encourage that family atmosphere. And I think I don't know the statistics on it, but we certainly have many people that have been with us for over 25 years, and certainly many that have been with us for over 10, 15 years. So I'd like to say that that's part of the success of that. And it's also a very exciting place to work because we have the blend of working in all the different vertical markets industrially, and we also work with water, wastewater customers. So people that work at the business, they have a lot of opportunity to see different types of things. So there's a growth pattern that's there for folks too.
Keep them interested.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. For sure.
So before we get into some more on the kind of culture and what it's like to work there, because I do want to talk about that, I don't want to get too much further along without telling your story, because it's one of the things I've found so fascinating. We've had a lot of conversation on the podcast of folks that thought they didn't want to go into manufacturing, and one of the goals of the podcast is to really enlighten the public in Connecticut about how vibrant and exciting manufacturing is. And so many of the people have gone down the finance route or whatever, and then realized how important it was to kind of work with your hands and sampled it out and then just fell in love with it. You were in it, left, and came back. Can you just tell the audience the story?
I've got like a 25-year cycle going on, right? So sure. I went to a business school primarily to play basketball when I was younger, and so I didn't really give it much thought. I had always worked in the family business from the time I was a little kid, doing tasks and up through high school and college. And so when I graduated, I thought, what am I going to do? I really hadn't thought about it much. And my brother really roped me in and said, come on, we really need to get this industrial drives and controls, going. And I think it's going to be valuable to work together and et cetera. So I did, and I did that for about 6 years. And what I found was, at the time, and I'm sure one of my favorite sayings is, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't been there, right? Mm-hmm. So I really didn't like it. I just didn't. I felt like I was a woman in a man's world. I was not comfortable with calling on customers. I also wasn't an engineer or an electrician or a mechanic. So I really struggled with what am I doing here and what's my role. And so I actually left when I was 25 and became a Connecticut licensed massage therapist. Actually, when I started, there wasn't a licensing, but that's an interesting industry too, to see how it's evolved and grown since the late 80s. So I loved it. I was passionate about it. I was a lifetime learner. I studied craniosacral therapy and neuromuscular therapy. I studied energy work, so I did transformational energy healing and all different kinds of things. I blended structural and energetic, and loved working with people, and never thought I would choose to do something different. And 25 years later, was at another crossroads and said, I really don't think I want to do this anymore. I'm not sure why, but I either burnt out or just felt like I needed to have a change. So my brother was kind enough to let me come back into the business a couple days a week and feel my way from something that was a very technical skill that I did for many years, to see what it was like to come back into the business. And I found after a couple of years of doing that with a slight transition that I woke up every morning and was super excited to come back to work for the company. We were just about at our 75th anniversary period of time, and I did a whole lot of stuff to do some exciting things around that. And about a year after that, I came back full time in a sales capacity. So when I was 25, I never would have been able to go out on the road and talk about the business, talk about what we do, and feel comfortable in many different environments. And if I hadn't worked one-on-one with people for 25 years, helping them to be comfortable, right? So it's very different, but it worked. So
if you hadn't been there, you wouldn't be here.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. That's really interesting. I mean, so when you came back, was the sort of did the passion sort of ignite right away? Listen, I've had the privilege of talking to you for a little bit, kind of in prep for this interview, and it was really on the phone, but I could see you without being able to see you. Mm-hmm. I could see you like light up when you talk about, Traver IDC and what you're doing, and the excitement and the energy behind it is palpable. Was that there right when you came back? Like, was that first day you walked in and you were like, oh, wow?
I thought, why did I leave? I'm a totally different person, but a lot of the dynamics are still the same, right? It's still a family business. It's much larger. We have branched out in a lot of different ways. We've had to for different reasons, and the energy savings program was almost part of that. I don't know. It combined the two in a way for me that I felt like I'm helping people. It's energy. It's not, the physical body, but it's still going in and trying to talk about helping to save on costs and do something good for the environment and all of that. There was a good jump there. And I think the other part was the family, right? Mm-hmm. You get a little older. Like I felt so much pride in working not only with my family, but all of the people that work at the business are so talented. We've got, engineers, we've got electricians, we've got mechanics that go into businesses, factories every day, and it amazes me their talent and what they can do and what the company can do. So I think the pride part really did. I hit the gate running.
Yeah, listen, it's funny you talk about family, and I think one of the big prides anyone that's owned or helped to run a business, in the way that you have, and you guys have been doing it for more than 75 years, so well longer than I ever have. But there's something that makes you feel good about looking at the good people that work in a business and realizing that together you're helping other people, but you're helping those people too. Exactly. All of their families rely on those paychecks, and you're giving people an opportunity to make an impact in the world, and you can be proud of that.
And with the legacy. So we want to grow. We're in a growth pattern. We're strategically working in a direction of growth.
That's fantastic. You talked about earlier that when you were younger and, in the business, you sort of felt, I'll put these words in your mouth, but a little bit fish out of water, in part because women in manufacturing, maybe a woman in a man's world, I think is what you had said. Yep. When you came back 25 years later, where were you on that scale?
I feel well respected. It amazes me in different places that I go into, I tell folks all the time that I spend a lot of my time in water and wastewater plants, and I love the people there. I just I just have a good relationship. I don't feel I don't feel really anywhere that there's that barrier, that women's barrier. I'm also involved with Women in Manufacturing, the organization. I think it's great. I think it's so helpful to do the mentoring and to help younger folks that are eager and interested to know that there's many different ways they can be involved in manufacturing and be incredibly successful at it.
So the Women in Manufacturing, or WIM, talk about how did you get introduced to WIM? What's your involvement like? It's a topic that's of real big interest to me. I'd love for you to share with the audience.
Sure. I went to I think it was the first WIM gathering that was at Trump, and just was so jazzed and energized by a room full of women and wanting to know other people's stories and have some connections there. I'm also really involved with the Smaller Manufacturers Association, and we other organizations too that we participate in. And so in all of those arenas, I really feel that there's, I don't know if it's an equal number of women. Obviously in WIM there is, but but yeah, it's great. I really feel comfortable, and I know part of that might be I'm older than I was when I was younger, but I do think that the culture and the stigma and all of those things has changed so tremendously. That manufacturing isn't, I don't know, the old boys club, or the dirty,
dark, dingy,
yeah, exactly.
Definitely been more about that. So what do you get out of WIM? Like, for other women that may be listening here who aren't a part of it, and sometimes it's nerve-wracking to join a new group because you got to walk in the room and everybody knows everybody and all that. Maybe like inspire someone for WIM. What have you gotten out of it? How often do you go? When you think about your time that you invest in WIM, like how does that provide ROI to you?
The plant tours are phenomenal. I think that there's just a general learning that goes with that. The social gatherings are phenomenal and a lot of fun. And I think that again, whether it's mentorship or just general friendship and interest, that I think people that are involved really communicate well and have fun and create an opportunity for, I feel that way about the Smaller Manufacturers Association as well, that when you belong and are really involved, you have a whole host of people that you can call at any time for any issues or support, or hey, do you know somebody that does X? We're looking for this, or it's all about the networking,
or building a network, absolutely.
Building connections to support each other.
Yeah, you mentioned the SMA, or the Small Manufacturers Association in Waterbury. Cindy Zoldi was a guest on,
yes.
Several months back. Talk about SMA and your involvement there. What prompted you to get involved? What is your involvement? I had been going to some of the SMA meetings over the years that I've been back in the business, and I find, again, great friendships, great interest in the types of activities that the presentations are always really well attended, and some of the social events and different things that we've been including. And so I'm actually membership chair and looking to help support the organization in that way. Also secretary treasurer, so kind of working my way up in the organization that way also. So why would somebody who's listening to this right now, who's maybe like kind of in the greater Waterbury area or just interested in the SMA, why would they want to join, do you think?
One of the reasons is the support of things that you can't do as you're in the business, right? So the legislative connection and the newsletter and the informational purposes, going to the different programs, all of those things, I think just give you a support system well beyond what anybody's capable in this multitasking, fast-paced world that we are all in. So support in all of those ways.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I've talked about it often that, finding people, peers to talk about who are going through similar experiences to sort of share. And like you talked about, the network is just such an important part of being successful because you just learn so much faster when you pick that up. And I imagine kind of re-engaging in the business after 25 years out, going to stuff like SMA events and going to them probably just skyrocketed your learning.
And the other part of the SMA that's great is also the education support for students and the scholarships and we're really education focused and really we need folks to get involved, right? And we need manufacturing, we need apprentices, we need folks that can go in and learn the skills and do stuff. So that certainly has helped so many of the organizations to connect with students at the different schools and that then can come in and do apprenticeship programs and things like that.
So let's actually dig onto that because that's a topic that we talk about a lot here, and it's a very important one to bring attention to, which is, recruiting or getting people engaged in manufacturing for any number of reasons. Manufacturing in Connecticut has been growing. The fact that we've got the silver tsunami or people of older generations starting to retire, we need to replace them. Are you guys seeing that same need at Traver of finding people, and how are you tackling that challenge?
We are looking for, we are continually looking for skilled electricians, skilled mechanics, skilled engineers that work on the type of systems that are in plants. We also have a construction electrical division as well that does general electrical construction work when companies are moving, adding to their facility, adding new equipment, things like that. But certainly we have, reached out in so many different ways to try and attract talent. We've even flirted with the idea of putting a billboard up. It's like whatever you can do, and we're looking at all aspects of the company that would help attract talent. We also have an apprenticeship program for the electricians, so that's a piece of it as well. So people will come in and go through the electrical apprenticeship and then hopefully stay with us and grow with the company, learn additional skills that they can segue into some of the engineering things we do, which is help companies troubleshoot, do preventive maintenance types of things. So there's a lot of opportunity for growth. But as far as the apprenticeship program is concerned, I would say that probably the laws are somewhat outdated in terms of the apprenticeship ratio laws, and it certainly makes it a little challenging for businesses to attract that eager talent to the trades, to all the trades. In our case, electricians. But maybe you could just explain for the audience, like what is the ratio and how does that impact your ability to attract people? It's not enough ability to have the apprentices, right? So I think it's the 1-to-1 for the first 3 apprentice to electricians, and then I think it's 1 apprentice to 3 electricians, and then a ratio changes. So at the end of the day, it's that you can't have as many apprentices as you would like to have, and I think it compounds. So it
makes
creates
it hard
a challenge
to get people into the trades
when you have so many E1s and E2s, and then you're trying to also build this apprenticeship piece to it as well.
So maybe some help in that area to maybe ease those up a little bit, give us an opportunity to get more people active in the trades and get them skilled up faster might be a way someone in Connecticut could help us in that way.
Wait. Yes.
And I know that that's a great place for SMA, and I know SMA is part of the the Connecticut Manufacturers Collaborative and kind of working together with the other groups. Really important to have our voices be heard so that the state legislatures can make the changes. And these are some pretty straightforward, easy changes to make that don't cost any money. That would be very, very helpful. So maybe we could talk a little bit about your role. I know you're doing a lot in business development. Sort of talk about your approach. Like, how do you get out there and prospect? How do you get people to remember you? Talk about that a little bit.
I would, I love to go out and tell the family story, right? So that piece is comfortable. We're looking to speak with facility managers, plant managers, different folks in organizations that might be needing support. So one of the things also with Traver IDC, it's the Traver Electric Motor Company, Industrial Drives and Controls, Traver IDC, and I can't tell you how often it happens where somebody says to me, "I didn't know you did that." So, and I take that personally. Well, I guess I'm not doing my job good enough, right? So we have different divisions. The motor division does all of the repair work, whether it's pumps, motors, servo drives. We actually our parent company to a company called Electric Enterprise that specialized in servo motor repairs, which is a special electronic piece. There's a lot of servos in the CNC and the aerospace market and a lot of the other markets as well. And so speaking about that, we have a 2-year warranty on motor repair, which is unprecedented in the area. And being able to also talk about the contracting division and all of the skills that they have, and then the engineering that we pull it all together, the energy conservation opportunities. It's really the fact that we have mechanical and electrical experience, aptitude to be able to come into your facility and look through the lens that you would look at as a plant manager or facilities manager and say, we're not going to steer you in any one particular direction. We're going to find the best solution for you through our creativity and expertise to solve issues for you. And the one that I actually was remiss in mentioning was also we are a distributor of electrical products, and so we also can provide the motors and the all of the electrical supplies and things like that. So it's really a full service that we offer, and so I try to make sure that people know that we do this in addition to that. So so people may have only used us for motor repair for many, many years, and will say, I didn't know you had electricians, right? So, or I didn't know you carried electrical supplies, or that you did energy conservation projects, etc. So
do you find yourself kind of doing, traditional knocking on doors? Have you guys embraced any of the, newer, digital technology to try and drive more business? Like, where do you find, where are you guys in that kind of realm?
We are slowly working more of the digital up in trying to connect that way, but we really feel it's a little complicated, and we feel that our best story is told face-to-face and finding the right people that can really understand that we're a partner with them and that we can really help support their organization. So we really prefer that. Obviously, with the pandemic, that has been a bit challenging. And so we've been doing a lot of phone work and trying to reach out to people. I've been able to do a lot more prospecting than I had when I was out knocking on doors so much, and we have a lot of there's a lot of manufacturers in Connecticut, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot that we have to offer, and maybe somebody has somebody that they use for one of the areas, and but that doesn't need, they may have a need in another segment, right?
Sure.
So face to face is really our preferred, build a relationship. And if we haven't been able to do that, we've certainly all been on the phones as much as possible. And
how do you get past the phone fear, the door knock fear? Like, how do you just do it? A lot of people look at that phone trying to make that prospect call or follow up with someone, and that phone handle looks like it weighs 10,000 pounds. How do you pick it up and get past that?
Well, we often say you have to have the right person on the seat on the bus, and I love it. So.
Love it.
I do. I really do. I love the opportunity to, sure, you get people that don't call you back and you got to keep kind of going around, but making that connection is something that I thrive with. So I really enjoy it. And we actually have a couple other folks that might be more, servicing the accounts and have the relationships on a much more connected level for the day-to-day needs and everything. But I love prospecting.
Have you always loved it?
No, I was right. That's why I became a massage therapist. I worked one-on-one with people in a room with the door closed and didn't, So yeah, no, I don't know. I just do. I love to have people understand what we do and love to help. Maybe that's the connector. I'm a helper, so I like to help in my other field, and I like to to say, what can we do to help you?
Man, I imagine a bunch of people out there would love to find themselves their own Nancy at Traver, to figure out how to get that going. Because then, man, that's a toughie. Let's kind of circle back to what's it like to work at Traver IDC. You talked about the family values. Just talk about the experience. If anyone's listening who's never been in manufacturing, never been in the trades, and thinking about it, like, what's it like? What is it like to come into work every day? What are some of the things you see people getting excited about?
It's a little different with the way it's set up now. We worked, through the pandemic. We had task force and all different ways to try and help make the company safe. And so some of those things are in place. Might look a little bit differently than it did, but certainly the customer service department, folks come directly into the shop with different things that they're looking for, drop things off, pick stuff up, and all of that. And those folks do a lot of training to learn the parts, because we carry a wide breadth of product, and it's not easy to be an expert in all of those. So we've got great opportunities to learn and go to trainings by different manufacturers. We're always looking for programs to get people involved with. And actually, there's been a lot of online training that we've been able to incorporate through this time as well. As far as working in the business, I would say we've got a great management team and team leaders, and we meet regularly, and departments meet regularly, and I think that we actually just kicked off a fun committee.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there you go. We're trying to create a little balance after this period of time. So I don't even know if that's reached the whole company yet, but there's a committee that just had their kickoff meeting. So that's a great start.
What was the impetus behind having a fun committee?
Trying to create the camaraderie. We have a lot of our folks are out on the road, so our electricians may not even come into the building. They're deployed directly out into the field, and so that's a portion of the business. But with everybody, we really wanted to just bring in some camaraderie. So just last week, we actually did one of the outside in several groups, a company meeting in different groups, and had an ice cream truck there for everybody to enjoy too and stuff. So yeah, we're trying to lighten it up a little bit for folks and have them get to know each other and enjoy each other's company in different ways. So
that's
we'll
awesome.
See how it goes.
No, that's great. Hey, listen, you got to always be innovating. Try something new. A company doesn't last more than 3/4 of a century without innovating and coming up with some new and different stuff. We're starting to get to the end, but I just want to talk a little bit more about like recruiting and retention. The fun committee kind of made me think about that. You talked about apprenticeships. You talked about thinking about the billboard. What other stuff do you guys do to kind of recruit people into the company, and what things do you do to keep them engaged and help them see a path to stay like you have for people for over 25 years?
One of the best recruitment that we have had is with our existing workforce. So we offer some incentives for folks to recruit and bring somebody in, and then they are rewarded in different ways. I think it's a week's vacation, something like that. So, we have found that we've got a lot of great talent through our current folks that are with us. So that's probably the best resource. And we have at different times worked with a hiring company or something, but really that people that know the business, know the family, and are interested in growing with the company through the organizations, through getting the word out. Anywhere you overhear a conversation, oh, my my son's going to school to be an electrician, whip out your business card, send them to jobs@traveridc.com,
Every which way.
Everything
Beg, borrow, and
can,
steal.
right.
Yeah, the kitchen sink.
Exactly.
How do you guys think about retention, keeping people engaged, helping them to see a future? I think now more than ever, or maybe it's just talked about more than it ever has, I feel like employees are in a position where they want to see growth, right? They want to know that they're going to be doing something new and different and improving themselves. They always want to contribute to the business, I think, but they want to see themselves grow. How do you guys think about that at Traver, and how do you engage people over the long haul?
I would say that the fact that we have folks that have been with us for so many years, I think speaks volumes to people that are coming in, that they understand that they have that opportunity. We certainly provide training and growth through skills and reward folks to learn new skills in whichever department that they're in, and so we'll certainly encourage that as much as we can. And we also operate by a decision tree, which is something that we came up with at one point in time, which puts safety number one on the decision tree, customer satisfaction as second, quality third, financial health is fourth, and fifth is community. And so again, we're very community oriented. We actually had one of the top campaigns through the United Way this past year. That's one way, but the community of family and treating customers, our folks that work for us with that same level of respect speaks for itself too. So.
Absolutely. Can we dig out on that decision tree? That's kind of interesting. Yeah. How did that come about, and how do you put it to work?
We were working with a consulting company, and I can't really remember the specifics of how it came about, but we rolled it out and we said, basically, safety's got to be number one. And so we put that first, and we put it as sort of a hierarchy. So we use it as a tool with employees, and say, if at any point in time you feel that that something isn't safe, that's number one. You stop. You call your supervisor, you do what you need to do to make sure that is always followed. And then again, as it rolls down the list, it's a values system, right? And it's like it's really helped management, and it's helped folks that are working to help determine priorities or how best to handle any situation that comes up. If you filter it through that, that's awesome. It answers it, right?
Yeah,
it answers what you need to do.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting. Something we
and it's consistent.
Yes, and it provides this level of empowerment, right? It gives, not everyone has to always be calling up Jack or Nancy to find out what to do, because here's the decision tree. Yeah, and run that through. So is that something you guys have trained the entire organization on? Do people, as they come in, get trained on it?
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And we try to bring it up, at meetings too, and I think individually, folks, if they're working with a manager, will oftentimes, if you're sitting down and you're talking, you'll process something through the decision tree.
Has this been something you guys have had in place for quite a while?
It's been, I think, maybe working on 5 years or so.
That's 5 years is a healthy business cycle right there.
And we also are 24/7, right? So we always go the extra mile. We're always there when people need us, and we really, if people have to be willing to, if they're going to come to work, they have to also be willing to know that they may be called on. And during the pandemic, we went to a 7-day-a-week schedule with our repair department so that you wouldn't have cross-pollination. I don't know if that's the right word, pollinate. So that there would be two different, completely separate, and we've maintained that. And it's actually the first time in the history of the company that we've been working 7 days a week, other than on an emergency situation, and it's helped the throughput of the work. And people are psyched about it. Customers love it.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at that. There's
a positive out of the pandemic, right?
There you go. You got to make lemonade out of lemons. That's like a pretty impressive little idea there. Do you guys find that you have a lot of buy-in from the team with this empowerment approach and the decision tree? And I mean, did you communicate the 7 days a week? How do you guys make decisions in the company to keep people on board?
We're working on that, right? We're really focused on being solid as a management team, so it's a consistent message that is throughout the organization, and we're really working to try and have that message be clearly messaged throughout the organization, and so that's a work in process, really, and it's been tough for everybody, and I have to say that. My brother Jack is very generous, and he is super appreciative and lets people know that he appreciates everything that they do day in and day out, and and that messaging starts from the top
sure
as
does.
well, right?
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about that. How have you guys been able to balance the demands of customers, especially in COVID and 7 days a week and all that, and kind of still maintain that family atmosphere, giving people an opportunity to sort of like get the time they need, but at the same time respond to customer needs?
A lot of communication. So many committees, so many, we had a return to work committee that was working on that. We also have been on a lean journey for many years too. So pulling people from the different departments to collectively work on problem solving. So that's been able to help by phone, right, and management meetings as well. Many through the pandemic, and trying to help steer the work and trying to help keep our folks inside the building safe, and our electricians and engineers out on the road that are going into different companies, trying to come up with protocols and trying to do things to help keep everybody as safe as you can.
And the decision tree even works there, right?
There, exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
What a great way to you run into a pandemic or anything. You've got this decision tree that just sort of applies in every single which way. That's pretty awesome. Nancy, it has been great hearing so much about Traver IDC. And we're going to move to the rapid fire round of questions. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Red Sox or Yankees?
Yankees.
Oh, Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts?
Dunkin' Donuts.
When you take time off outside of COVID times, you a staycation or exotic destination person?
Staycation.
Ooh, iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Sports car or SUV?
SUV.
If you, and I guess this question is going to be interesting because I think, how long have you been back at Traver now?
8 years, something like that.
8 years.
Yeah.
So we got 17 years until your next career change.
Exactly.
Is that right? So if you could do anything and you had to do something other than what you're doing now, what would you do?
Write books.
Write books. Any particular kind of book?
Spiritual guidance. I don't know.
A little bit back towards your last career. Speaking of books, do you have a favorite business book?
It's it was a negotiating one, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's always in my my truck when I'm driving around. It was just a very good. I'd have to get back to you on that.
All right, get back to me. We'll put it in the show notes. What's one thing that you learned early in your career that you think, or early in your life, that you think's propelled you at all the success that you've had?
Something that I've learned. I have learned to not take myself so seriously. It's been hard. That's a hard lesson. So I have to keep going back to it. But try to lighten up and have fun and enjoy the journey.
Enjoyed that. That's a good one. And what's something that you learned later in your life that you think you could go back and tell young Nancy that if she'd listened to you, it'd really make a positive impact on her life?
Trust your gut and follow your passion.
Wow, that's really fantastic. I'm going to leave it right there. Nancy, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much for sharing your views with the Made in America audience.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
It's my pleasure.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by IT Direct.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a community where we can learn and grow together. Your input, feedback, and engagement is critical to making that happen. Please do comment, like, and subscribe so more and more people can hear what we're doing and join our community of growth and success. Thanks so much for tuning in. Talk to you again soon.